To the Stardust they all made their way. The bouncers looked on as they lined up to pay. The records were spinning, there was dancing as well. Just how the fire started, sure no one can tell. In a matter of seconds confusion did reign. The room was in darkness, fire exits were chained. The firefighters wept, for they could not hide their sorrow and anger for those left inside. Have we forgotten the suffering and pain the survivors and the victims of the fire entertain? The mothers and fathers forever.
Now, I'm delighted to say that on today's edition of Northside Today, I am joined in the studio by Antoinette Keegan. And Antoinette, for those of you who do not know, is the sister of Mary and Martine Keegan, the sisters who died in the Stardust tragedy. Antoinette, the last time we spoke to you, it was really coming up on the anniversary of the tragedy, and I suppose it was an extra appeal for funds. But there has been a little bit of movement since we spoke to you last. Can you tell us about that, please?
Yeah, well, the movement that has been progress is when the government was getting, the formation of the government was Finian McGrath done a deal for programme for government for Stardust to be sorted out, and Finian is actually in there trying to negotiate on behalf of the Stardust families and the victims that died tragically that night. He's trying to deal with the Minister for Justice and has asked her several questions, but the Minister for Justice is slow in responding and also slow in progressing the evidence insofar as handing them to the Attorney General, that it's so serious.
Yeah, and of course, I mean, there was a tribunal of inquiry in relation to that, and I think there were certain items presented to that tribunal which have since become the subject of communications. Now, I don't think that we'll go into that in too much detail, because it may prejudice further proceedings which may be taken under the Tribunal Act. But suffice it to say that there is a suggestion maybe that certain people were less than truthful when they went before the tribunal. But as I say, we don't want to prejudice any possible further case which may arise as a result of that. Antoinette, do you think now that you are getting close to where you want to be in relation to getting justice for your sisters and, of course, the other people who died tragically on that Valentine's night?
I think we are, because I spoke with Finian McGrath yesterday, and Finian thought that I was blaming him on all this, but I haven't been blaming Finian. In actual fact, I told Finian that we're grateful and the families are happy that he's helping us, right, that he's in government, and he has given a commitment that when the file is ready, that we have prepared to be handed to him, our solicitor is going to present it to Finian, and Finian has committed himself, right, that he himself will present it to the Attorney General. And this file is very serious. It's in relation to 5 lads that were dead before a fire even happened on the sea, where the fire originated in a different area, started in a different area to where it is on public record.
And of course, what something that we should, I suppose, highlight, and we spoke about it the last time that you came into us, was the fact that, I suppose, if there is any consolation at all that you or any of the other families can draw from the tragic loss you suffered, is that it was directly responsible for the, I suppose, instituting of new health and safety and fire regulations, which were heretofore, they were never part of anything up to then. But now, as a result of that, and as a result of the investigation and the analysis carried out following the Stardust, there's been a whole raft of new fire safety regulations brought in. So I suppose from that point of view, at least their debt achieved, if that's a correct way of putting it, something. But at the end of the day, from the time they have died right up until now, for you and the other families, this is still an open, festering wound.
Yeah, because when there's something technically wrong in relation to a crime scene and the death of 48, and when it's been brought to the attention of the authorities and the government, something that's technically wrong has to be reheard. If there's a car crash, right, and there's a scene there that hasn't been observed, the case is reopened. In relation to the Stardust, right, there's new evidence gone forward to the government, and the law is, right, if there's something technically wrong, it has to be reheard. And we've been trying to emphasise this for so long with the government and the Minister for Justice. But the Minister for Justice has given us this process 2 years ago, and it's gone no further because all they keep looking for is new evidence. Now, our researcher, Geraldine Foy, presented all this evidence to the appointed official. And the appointed official is looking for transcripts that don't exist because neither Justice Keane or the eminent legal person, Paul Coffey, asked the questions. And this is all in relation to the 5 lads that are dead before a fire even happened. In relation to the 2999 calls, there's only one on public record, and both of them have been ignored. And the one that was most serious was the one that was in the roof at the same minute as the sea fire. And these are not on public record, and this is all technically wrong. So if there's a case technically wrong, it has to be reheard and put right. The public record must be corrected.
Well, also, Finian is on pretty solid ground there because, my understanding of it from talking to you previously in relation to this, Antoinette, is that the minister gave an undertaking that they would look at it again and they would review it if fresh or new evidence was put forward. Now, what you're saying to us here today is that new evidence has been found and has been put forward. So now the onus is on the minister to actually stand by her word and reopen the investigation. How many of the people involved in the original investigation are still around to give evidence, Antoinette, or do you know?
Well, I wouldn't be able to say offhand, Donny, but I know that there is quite a few still alive. There is.
Yeah, because, I mean...
on the record, our researcher has spoken to some of the experts that are still there, right, and she has actually corrected what their mistakes was, and they've given her the correct version because they were led to believe, right, that in the building there was a glass wall. This was told to them, and they said that they had a gut feeling, right, that the fire actually started in the roof space, but because the glass wall was put into the frame of the cover up, that's when he decided, well, it couldn't have started there because the patrons would have seen the fire through the glass wall.
Yeah, and of course, you see, it's we're in a situation now as well where, thankfully, forensics and science and the whole scientific way that this will be looked at this time will be totally different. And I suppose as well, Antoinette, fresh eyes looking back at something like that can only be a good thing anyway.
Yeah, well, see, what we really need what the Hillsborough families had. We need the truth panel to be set up, where all the lies are taken off the public record. They're all corrected with the new evidence that we've presented to the minister's official, who keeps coming back. It's in his capacity, and he has no legal background. He has no stance. It's just an official, a civil servant in there. He keeps coming back and asking for more evidence and more evidence and more evidence. He's gotten all the evidence, and it's all new evidence.
And tell me, Antoinette, just as a matter of interest, and I'm asking the question out of ignorance because I don't know the answer to this, what way is the situation in relation to a coroner's inquest? Has that been completed, or was it open and closed without a verdict being reached? No,
it's open and closed without a verdict being reached, and that's why we need the truth panel.
So that's very similar to Hillsborough as well.
Yeah,
that it's exactly the same.
It's the same.
Yeah,
exactly the same. That's why we need the truth panel put in place. So it's all the wrongs that's in the Keane Tribunal and the Coffey Review, they can be all taken off, right? Because in relation to the coroners, right, the coroner's gone off the Tribunal of Inquiry, and if the corrections are done, then we can have a new inquest done and a verdict recorded. As it stands at the moment, I think we're the only people in Ireland that don't have a verdict recorded after 35 years. There is no verdict recorded of what, only medical. They went there Friday the 13th, Saturday the 14th, they were all dead. So it's just medical verdict.
Yeah, so in other words, like, for the purposes of anybody who was looking for insurance, etc., there was a certificate issued for that purpose, just to certify that they're dead that they can be buried. But other than that, there's no cause of death has been recorded.
No.
Antoinette, I presume, without knowing it, that your donations and your bank accounts are still open for subscriptions.
They are, yes.
And will you give us the details there for anybody who wants to contribute to that, Antoinette, please?
It's Ulster Bank, Coolock Village. I don't have the account.
Yeah, well, that's fine. Ulster Bank, Coolock Village, I'm sure if you go in there...
Stardust Victims Committee.
And if you go in and ask for the Stardust Victims Committee account, they will lodge the money into your account. You also have a Facebook page.
That's right, yeah.
You're available on social media, so anybody...
Justice for the Stardust.
Justice for the Stardust is right. I suppose this is really how long is a piece of string, but has Finian given you any indication of when he may? I know that he has actually asked, and he has put a fair bit of pressure on the Minister for Justice to come back with replies, but he's not, presume, giving you any timescale of when you may hear back in relation to this? No,
he hasn't. No, but we had a meeting with Micheál Martin, and our researcher spoke with their the Justice Minister, or the Justice spokesperson, Jim O'Callaghan, and he has given 100% commitment, right, that he's behind us and supporting us, and so is Micheál Martin. And they're actually joining forces with Sinn Féin, People for Profit, AA Alliance, Tommy Brown, right, to get a Dáil motion in place in the autumn and have all the signatures on it, so that we can get everything sorted out this year. And Fianna Fáil told us, right, that they're hopeful it could be all sorted out by the end of this year.
Well, Antoinette, it certainly sounds as if you're moving a lot closer to your final goal. I just think that it's a disgrace that it has taken this length of time. I think it's an absolute disgrace that families have been left with the very valid questions which have been left unanswered for a period of time like that. It's not good enough. But
it's actually very sad when you think, like, when Finian committed himself yesterday to hand the paperwork to the Attorney General, the perjury file, I went home and told my mother, and my mother cried at the table.
And your mother is what age now?
She's 80.
She's 80.
I rang Mrs. McDermott. She lost her 3 children, and I told her, and she's not very good at hearing. So our daughter got on the phone, and our daughter said it to my mother. Our mother started crying like a baby.
And this is what it means to the people. And of course, it is. I really do hope that you finally do get justice for the victims of the Stardust. It's long overdue, in whatever form it comes, Antoinette. It is long overdue. Yeah. And look, I appreciate it's very upsetting for you, but I do really genuinely thank you for coming in today. And we wish you well, and we hope that you do get the justice that you so richly deserve, and all the families of the victims. And I suppose our wish is that you get it sooner rather than later. Antoinette Keegan, thanks very much for coming in.
Thank you.
The bad news had spread. There's a fire in the Stardust with 48 dead. Hundreds of children are injured and maimed, and all just because the fire exits were chained. Our leaders were shocked, grim statements were made. They shed tears by the graves as the bodies were laid. The injured have waited in vain for 4 years. It seems like our leaders shed crocodile tears.